Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. He'll never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you. Don't be afraid. The Lord goes before you through the trouble and strife, and He will protect you all the days of your life. He'll never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you. Don't be afraid. Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. He'll never forsake you. Oh, don't be afraid. He will never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you. Oh, don't be afraid. He will never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you.
All right, good morning. It is September 22nd, 2020, Tuesday morning. On Tuesday and Thursday mornings, been having interviews with folks that I know, and I introduce someone here in just a moment. But fortunately, here in Southeast Texas, we've been able to partially avoid some of the rains. I know in South Houston and West Houston, I've seen reports this morning in Galveston, some flooding. So definitely remember those folks in your prayers. I used to live about an hour south of Houston, and it's known to flood in some of those areas. So continue to remember them in your prayers. Also, of course, just east of us here in Orange, Texas, on over into Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles, Sulphur, a lot of devastation from Hurricane Laura, and also over in towards Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama along the Gulf Coast there. Continue to remember all of them in your prayers. Today, for the daily Bible reading, we're going to be looking at Psalm 27 and Proverbs 27. But as I mentioned, trying to find folks interviewing, and I'm going to interview someone in just a little bit. But first, we'll do the reading. But from Indiana, way up north, originally began to go to Indiana. My youth minister, Trent McManus, who I'd interviewed a few weeks ago, my youth minister when I was in high school, he was from Indiana, Jeffersonville, Indiana area, and had gone to associated with a camp up there. I'll bring that up here in just a minute. But I met this fella through my friend Trent, and enjoyed getting to know him, even though it's been a while since we've been able to hang out. But I thought it would be fun to bring him on to interview. That's one of the fun things about this, being able to catch up with people I haven't talked to in years in some cases. But Rick Leach, let me bring him on here. Let's see. And there he is. Good morning, Rick. How are you, man?
Hey. Good morning, Michael. Happy first day of fall, I think, if I read the calendar right.
Officially?
I think so. Yeah. Do they celebrate fall in Texas?
For about 2 weeks or so. Yeah, we have had slightly cooler temperatures over the last few days. So partially, I guess this hurricane is bringing in some cooler weather too, I guess, a little bit. But let's go ahead and read, and then I'll introduce you a little further. Rick, you're going to read Psalm 27 first, and then I'll read Proverbs 27, and we get a little further into who you are and a little bit about your life, and then share about seeking contentment. So go ahead and read Psalm for us there.
All right, sounds good. Psalm 27, the Psalm of David. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me, to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fall. Though through an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing have I asked of the Lord, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. But he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I will offer in his tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious to me, and answer me. You have said, seek my face. My heart says to you, your face, Lord, do I seek. Hide not your face from me. Turn not your servant away in anger. O you who have been my help, cast me not off, forsake me not, O God of my salvation. For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Give me not up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they breathe out violence. I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord.
Proverbs 27. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring. Let someone else praise you, and not your own mouth, an outsider, and not your own lips. Stone is heavy, and sand a burden, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Anger is cruel, and fury overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. One who is full loathes honey from the comb, but the hungry, even what is bitter, tastes sweet. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. Be wise, my son, and bring joy to my heart. Then I can answer anyone who treats me with contempt. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger. Hold it in pledge if it is done for an outsider. If anyone loudly blesses their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. A quarrelsome wife is like the dripping of a leaky roof in a rainstorm. Restraining her is like restraining the wind or grasping oil with the hand. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. The one who guards a fig tree will eat its fruit, and whoever protects their master will be honored. As water reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. Death and destruction are never satisfied, and neither are human eyes. The crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but people are tested by their praise. Though you grind a fool in a mortar, grinding them like grain with a pestle, you will not remove their folly from them. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. When the hay is removed and new growth appears, and the grass from the hills is gathered in, the lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. You will have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants. Proverbs 27. All right, so there's the Proverbs reading for today. Rick Leach. I always think of, you haven't ever chased if you're kin to Robin Leach, have you? Whenever I think of your name, I always think of Robin Leach for some reason.
Yeah. Now, some people who are a little bit older, there was a quarterback for Michigan back in the 70s named Rick Leach, and he actually played Major League Baseball. I got baseball cards, Rick Leach baseball cards. Played for the Tigers and the Giants and a few other teams, and I've actually been confused with him. People have sent me emails saying, "Are you the Rick Leach who played football for Michigan in the 70s?" And so,
yeah, what year were you born?
I was born actually in 73, so I'm not nearly as old as the other Rick Leach, but I've been confused, like I said.
I was born in 75, so I knew you were somewhere close, but I didn't know exactly where. Yeah, you barely were alive at that time, but yeah, that is funny, ironic. Even though also you're a minister in Central Church of Christ in Bedford, Indiana, is that right?
Yes, correct.
And I was trying to recall. I'm a bigger college basketball fan than pro, but I was thinking Bedford, Indiana. And I was thinking Damon Bailey was from Bedford. I don't know. Does he go to the '90s or what? I didn't look at his dates.
Yeah. No, that's exactly correct. But Damon Bailey played here at Bedford North Lawrence High School. I think he graduated in 1990. He's close to
Okay.
our age. So I grew up in Jeffersonville, though, watching as a rival to Bedford. It's kind of interesting because I came to Bedford to watch basketball games, but I was rooting for Jeffersonville. And
Now you live
now
in
I'm
Bedford.
here rooting for Bedford. Yeah.
I was thinking that's one little. Indiana had a lot of those guys, little unathletic guys that could score points and shoot free throws.
Yeah.
As I was reflecting on Damon, he always found a way to score 20 points in a game. It seemed like, but
When we saw him playing, when we were in Jeffersonville, Jeffersonville never beat Bedford when Damon Bailey. We came close. We had good teams, but he
uh,
was unbelievable, especially
one
against
man wrecking,
Jeffersonville.
one man wrecking crew. Also,
Yes.
connection with Rick. I was going to mention across the bottom of the screen, you may be able to see if you're watching. If you're watching later, Spring Mill Bible Camp. As I mentioned, my youth minister at the time, Trent McManus, was affiliated with, or has been affiliated with Spring Mill Bible Camp, and I went to 2 or 3 summer camps and a number of retreats at Spring Mill Bible Camp. But now Rick is on the board. I know. Are you president? Or I know you're on the board.
I am. Yes, I direct a week during the summer, and I've done that for over 20 years. Been
Oh,
on the
okay.
board of directors for probably 15 or more years, maybe
Okay.
upwards of 20, and then been president of the board the last 3 years.
So if anyone has any extra folds of money in your under your bed mattress that you don't know what to
Yeah.
do with, I'll put the website on the bottom there. But very good cause, very good camp. One of the best camps I've been to. I've been to a number of camps over the years in youth ministry and also as a camper. But fond memories. I was thinking, I was looking back. I learned how to play euchre at Springville Bible Camp. I think that's a northern version of spades, is sort of what they told me. I knew how to play spades, and so learning euchre wasn't too much more challenge. And but I enjoyed learning euchre. No one down here really knows what euchre is, though, so I think I would have to go back to Indiana to play euchre. And refresh my memory as well, and also
Yeah.
Superstar Baseball. I think
Yes.
Trent posted something about Superstar Baseball not long ago, trying to maybe get a retreat, a men's retreat, and get some people together. That
Oh,
would be fun.
I'd be there in a heartbeat. I miss that.
I know, yeah, but that was a fun times as well. But a little bit more about Rick's family. I know following from a distance, and I know I've seen on your Facebook over the last, I don't know the timeline, I'll say a couple of years, year, 2 years. Your wife has had a number of health challenges, and also yourself over the last, I know hers go back a little further, I think, if memory serves me right. But share a little bit about that. I know as we talk, like I said, I'm kind of setting the context for seeking
Yeah.
contentment and trying to be content in the world we live in today, but a little bit about what's gone on with that and in the last couple of years.
Yeah. My wife, Laura, it was December 1st of 2018. We've got 2 kids. At the time, my daughter was in high school. My son was, I think he was in uh, 5th or 6th grade at the time. December 1st of 2018, we had just returned home from our town's Christmas parade. My daughter was the drum major in the band, so we enjoyed that as a family. She was coming home separately, but we had gotten home, had not been home very long, and my wife suddenly got just violently ill, and very suddenly, and we had no idea exactly what was going on. My son called to attention that something wasn't right, and she, we spent some time trying to take care of her needs, but realizing, and honestly, I'm sitting on my phone trying to Google the symptoms that she's having.
Hmm.
I literally thought because of the way she was throwing up, she was not able to communicate. She was
Hmm.
talking a little bit about her head hurting and just not feeling good. I didn't think it was a stroke because of she could communicate. She wasn't slurring her speech or words, but
Hmm.
we eventually decided we've got to get her to a hospital and took her here locally to a hospital. Um, they did a CAT scan and determined pretty quickly that she had suffered a brain aneurysm that had ruptured.
Oh,
And
wow.
of course, when I first heard that news from the doctor there in the ER room, I knew that was life threatening.
Hmm.
You hear the word aneurysm, you know that there are people who die from
Hmm.
those. And they had said immediately, we're calling in a helicopter if the weather will permit to fly her up to Indianapolis for surgery, and our world was kind of turned upside down. She went up
Mm.
to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. She was in the ICU. She had a coiling procedure done on the Sunday, December 2nd. Woke up Monday, December 3rd, having really no memory of the previous day or two. Spent a couple weeks in ICU, another week in normal hospital room, another week in rehab in Bloomington, which is about 20, 30 minutes up the road from us. And didn't get home until after Christmas. So almost 4 weeks of being away from home.
Wow.
And me staying up there most of the time, the kids kind of going back and forth and with friends. And she's done remarkably well. It's amazing when she has her doctor follow-ups. They're amazed. And a lot of people don't survive these things. A lot of people that do survive them have got significant issues long term. She deals with being tired, maybe more than the average person. She had another procedure done this summer to kind of go back up and address that aneurysm, put a stent in. But she's doing well, all things considered. We have no reason to complain because it was a scary time.
Yeah.
Flash
Wow.
forward, that went from December, like I said, and those first few months, her recovering. In March of 2019, I got the flu, and I don't usually get sick. And I had the flu, and I knew it was the flu. I woke up on a Monday morning, preached on Sunday, woke up Monday morning. I was not feeling well. Went to my wife's nurse practitioner. I think she may have already had an appointment, and I was like, I'm going with you, see if she can take a look at me and give me something. And the lady said, yep, you got the flu. Can't do anything but just let it ride its course. But let me go ahead and check you out. And while she's checking me out, she says, do you know you got an irregular heartbeat? And I said, nobody's ever told me that before. She sent me
Wow.
for an EKG. It showed something unusual. She sent me to a cardiologist. I did another EKG in his office, a stress test, a heart scan, all these series of tests over 2 or 3 months. Finally determined that I had an artery that was pinched because it was located in a spot that it's not normally at. I just kind of had a hereditary, just kind of a defect as far as the artery being located in a bad spot and pinched.
Oh, wow.
And so they actually told me right then, we got to do some surgery. In the meantime, don't do anything stressful. Take it easy.
Wow.
I had open heart surgery then on July 28th or 29th of 2019 at the same hospital in Methodist that my wife is at.
Oh, wow.
After she knew that I was okay, she went up to the floor where she was at in the ICU, the neuro ICU, met a lot of the nurses that took care of her, so it was kind of neat.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I had no symptoms at all, so I consider myself healthy. But they
So I
told me,
guess you had lived with that your whole life, and like I said, the doctor finally heard it or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's
Party.
ironic. If I had not had the flu and had not gone to the doctor, that I've been was kind of told this would have been a thing at some point. I might have been playing basketball, doing something that and just dropped. At some point that could have happened.
Wow.
So my recovery's gone well. Just had my annual follow up a couple weeks ago, and doctor's pretty pleased with things. And I try to just stay fit and take care of myself, keep my exercise, my heart a little bit. But yeah, so we had some interesting moments for people who aren't really I wouldn't consider ourselves old and have young kids. So as a result, our kids have gone through some tough stuff to see both mom and dad have significant health issues.
Yeah. In 2 year span, or less than 2 year span almost.
Yeah.
And your daughter, what is her name? I apologize.
My daughter, Olivia.
I could pick her out of a crowd probably because I've seen her picture a number of times, but I couldn't remember her name. She's a student at Harding. If she's a freshman, is that right? I think
she is. Yeah. Currently, she's at Harding, just started, and she's got about a month under her belt, doing well.
Good. Yeah, and I brought my daughter just a few weeks, 2-3 weeks ago up there to visit. So we were probably potentially rubbing elbows with her almost. I didn't think about that, but yeah, we were visiting the campus. And my daughter's thinking about going there, so next fall. So we'll see how that unfolds. But enjoyed the visit to the campus, and they were taking a lot of precautions with virus stuff, and I think they've kept that going pretty well. As far as all that goes. So that's good for them. Then you have a son in the 8th grade. Is that right?
I do. Yeah, my son Elijah is in 8th grade.
Okay. So yeah, I want to kind of set the stage for your family, and I know, like I said, some of the challenges you guys have gone through, and daughter being gone to Searcy, Arkansas, and getting on her own feet now, and in the context too of kind of the virus pandemic and what's going on with that, and how that's sort of impinged upon our lives in different ways, and talking with people and just finding out how do you seek contentment. I'm going to read Philippians 4 here. And then I'll kind of bounce it back to you after you've kind of shared a little bit about your life and share some of the things that you and your family do to seek contentment. Philippians 4, verse 11 and 12. I always mention verse 13. Everyone knows verse 13. I can do all things through him who gives me strength, or through Christ who gives me strength, depending on your translation. But 11 and 12, Paul says, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I've learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through him who gives me strength. So, as you know, you mentioned some challenging times the last couple of years, particularly. Probably less challenging before that and before the virus. But Paul says, I've learned to be content in the highs and the lows and the in betweens. So, as you guys particularly have had some challenges last couple of years in your family, and as we face some of these challenges as a culture, as a country, as a world, I guess you could say, what are some things that you, Rick, do to seek contentment? You, your family. Share some things with us.
Well, I was thinking when you had told me ahead of time talking about contentment, I started thinking about, what that word, I guess, means, obviously. And I actually looked it up, and I understood what it meant. But the definition being a state of being happy or pleased or satisfied. We typically think about contentment, I guess, of, our current state. But some of that being content, that attitude or how we feel is based a little bit on the future, content with the direction that we're going. But I think, one of the things that I'm going to draw attention to, I guess, is looking, because I think contentment, if we're going to have contentment, and I think we all desire it, it actually involves our past. And I was thinking, looked into at 2 Timothy chapter 3. Apostle Paul's talking to Timothy, and this is not the only place that Paul mentions some of the things that he has struggled with, the things that he has gone through. He says in 2 Timothy 3, verse 10, you, however, have followed my teaching, my conduct, my aim in life, my faith, my patience, my love, my steadfastness, my persecutions and sufferings that happened to me at Antioch, at Iconium, and Lystra, which persecutions I endured, yet from them all the Lord rescued me. And so Paul was, big on looking back at his life and looking at the things that he went through. And it's because of those things that he went through, and because of how God delivered him. I think that's what helped him be content. That's what helped him know he could face whatever. There wasn't any difficulty that was going to be too big. So I think, personally, that's kind of what's happened to us. You mentioned the things that have gone on just in the last, like I said, 2 years that we've went through. Some significant trials, things I wouldn't wish on anybody, and so, but at the same time, as we look at things that we face currently, as a family, we talk quite a bit about the things that we've been through. We reminisce about those events and how we were feeling. And it's amazing because every time we talk about them, we come up with something else, some other part of that story or memory that somebody has that we'd overlooked or forgotten. But, we look back at those things and we recognize that God had brought us through it. God delivered us. God was with us the whole time. And as a result, we just got more confidence. I think we can be content currently, but also look ahead and go, there's nothing too big. There's nothing that we're going to face that's going to be something we can't overcome with God's help. And that's where we're at. It's been a transition, been difficult. Olivia, she's almost 500 miles away, and she's recognized that. We have too. It's just not close enough to make a quick trip to Arkansas to see her and visit. But we know, hey, we've gotten through difficult times, and this is just that's the other thing I think when it comes to contentment, those things that we face in this world, we can acknowledge and recognize that most of them are temporary. And I think that's Paul's attitude too. You think about Philippians, obviously Paul writing and talking about being in prison and all these things. He understood the idea of temporary troubles. He spoke about that in other places too.
Yeah, a lot of momentary troubles. As you say that too, looking at the past, and I don't think I've had anybody bring that idea up, but as we look at Scripture, that's one thing that throughout, as you said, Paul references it otherwise, but also in the Old Testament, just throughout time, the prophets talk about, remember how, and sometimes they'll even rehearse the story, hey, here's the history, remember how God has blessed us through the years,
Right.
and we need to straighten up, or we need to appreciate that. And like you said, as you reflect on it, you can appreciate it more. And as you said, from different angles sometimes, and in ways we sometimes forget, as you reappreciate life in your case, in your wife's case, and potentially life, particularly in your wife's case, life-threatening situation. But yours, what could have become, which was headed off at the pass. What else in reflection of contentment? Anything else? I do like that element of looking at the past,
Yeah.
look towards the future.
Right. Well, I think when you think about it in a spiritual sense, challenges, and there's lots of places again to talk about it. James, that we're to rejoice with trials because we know they bring out something, that there's value there. So I think as Christians, if we're disciples and we're believers, hopefully we look at challenges a little differently than the world, to say, how is God going to be glorified? How can we go through a difficult situation and God receive honor? I appreciate even what you're doing with these videos, interviews, daily Bible readings. I talked to you a bit yesterday about when the pandemic first began, and middle of March, suddenly we recognized and made the decision, our elders here locally, that we weren't going to have church services for the indefinite future. And suddenly I kind of had to spring into action. I kind of felt like, well, I got to do something. Well, I had zero experience with doing any kind of Facebook Live videos or streaming, and kind of forced myself to get up to speed. And I quickly realized that not only doing so, but a lot of other preachers and friends of mine were doing the same thing. And suddenly, I don't know about you, but we found lots of people engaged and tuned in to our worship and the things that we were putting out there, and that was encouraging. And I thought, there's good that's coming from that. And we know that, again, we kind of hold fast to one of our favorite Bible verses as a family is Romans 8:28, that we know that things will work together for good for those who love God or called according to his purpose. So we hold on to that, but we've seen that come about. And so we've taken the challenges that we faced over these last few months as a church, hopefully, and we've decided, hey, we're going to do something about it. We did the same thing at Bible camp this year. We couldn't have camp this year, and boy, that was heartbreaking to have to make that decision. I'm glad we made it. I think it was the right decision. As soon as we made the decision, there were some of us, and we'd already been talking about building a new cabin. We just finished the first new cabin. That's what was kind of frustrating. The first new cabin on the girls' side to.
And it was ready for camp, and then
yeah, and it's got to sit empty all summer. So, but the long-term plan had been to build additional cabins. We didn't have the money, and so we kind of sprung into action in the spring and said, you know what, we're gonna redeem this summer. It looks like we could look back at 2020 and think, this is sad. This is a bad year. But let's make 2020 the year that we look back and think, wow, God did something amazing. And so we determined to go out and raise a large amount of money, an amount of money that we've never raised before at one time. And as a result, we got work that may be starting today on the next new cabin, because we raised a lot of money, and people responded. People were generous, and so I think we're going to look back at 2020 and think, you know what? Yeah, that was a year that again, maybe we didn't enjoy all of it. Maybe we wouldn't wish to go through it again. But there was some good,
still progress made, yeah.
And as a result, again, that God was glorified, God was honored, and He saw us through. And so I think that's part of being content from a spiritual perspective is we know that despite whatever it is we might face, good can come from it.
Yeah, sometimes, and perspective sometimes gives us that, as we look back like you said, in the midst of not going to camp, it stinks for everybody. But a few years from now, you look back and say, hey, there's a new cabin that was made and some other new resources perhaps that now we're using 3 or 4 years later, that maybe wouldn't have been otherwise, perhaps. Who knows? All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up. And thanks for visiting a little bit, Rick, and sharing your life and sharing some of those perspectives. Like I said, I don't think I've had anyone talk about the past in relation to the future, but that is definitely, sometimes I analogize it to sort of fueling up your car, in the sense that, what God has blessed us with in the past, we use that as fuel for the future. If we don't fuel up the car, eventually we run out of gas, and for looking, history was very important in the Old Testament. And also, like I said, as you look at Paul and his ministry with Timothy and other perspectives, it's important to learn from history, to appreciate history, to look at how God's blessed us through challenging times. 5-10 years from now, as we look back at 2020, I'm sure there'll be some and as you talked about the James passage, one of the points he talks about there is so that you can become mature and complete, and we'll look back and say, hey, I grew during that time, however different ways we can quantify that. I think we'll look back 5-10 years from now, if we're still here, and say, hey, that I grew during that time in different ways, different perspectives. But time gives us some different perspective on that sometimes.
Right.
All right, let's close with a prayer, and we'll go on forward. Father, thankful for the time I had to visit here with Rick, and as he shared a little bit of his life, and thankful for his family and his ministry there at Central Church in Bedford, and for his perspective that he shared as they've had in his own personal family gone through some trials and challenging times over the last couple of years, and been able to persevere and learn lessons from those things, and to try to glean lessons and goodness from those things. And thankful that Laura is doing well as she is, and pray that she would continue to be well in her checkups and moving forward, and Rick as well. Thankful they were able to do the things needed to help his heart to be more healthy and consistent in the future, and pray that he would be well. Just pray that you bless his family, and pray that you bless us all as we go forward, as we seek contentment. Sometimes that's a challenging thing to seek and to be have comfort with in today's world of immediacy and in today's world of challenge. But pray that we could seek to be content, whatever the circumstances, as Paul wrote in Scripture. And we know that we can do that through Christ, all things through Christ who strengthens us, and pray that we would seek that strength from day to day as we seek contentment. We know that we will be content as we do that. Pray that you'd be with Houston area, and as the storm comes on around Houston and those areas that are susceptible to flooding, pray that they would be able to be well, to recover, to get out of the high waters as needed. And pray that you'd be with those along the Gulf Coast as well that continue to recover from hurricanes and storms and floods, and many thankful for those who are helping them to recover in small ways and in larger ways, and pray that you continue to bless their efforts as they do that. Just pray that you bless us as we go today, and help us to go forth to be a blessing to others that we encounter, and seek to love our neighbor as you call us to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. Good to catch up with you and share a little bit. And thanks for sharing some of your life with us about seeking
Thank you, brother.
contentment. All right. Have a good day.
Thanks. God bless.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.